Leveraging professional organizations to advance diversity in nursing practice is our episode topic. My guest is Dr. Danielle McCamey, Assistant Dean for Strategic Partnerships at the Johns Hopkins School of Nursing and founder, CEO, and president of DNPs of Color. DNPs of Color is a 501c3 nonprofit organization whose mission is to serve doctors of nursing practice of color through networking, mentoring, and advocacy to increase diversity in doctoral studies, clinical practice, and leadership. So let's get started.
Welcome to the BRG Nurse Executive Podcast. BRG is a global consulting firm that helps organizations in disputes and investigations, corporate finance, and performance improvement and advisory. BRG's healthcare performance improvement practice offers multidisciplinary services to healthcare organizations. We focus on implementation with innovative, independent, and data-driven solutions. In the BRG Nurse Executive Podcast, we discuss improving patient care by advancing nursing leadership. For more information about BRG, please visit thinkbrg.com. Now here's your host, Nick Shimalewski.
Danielle, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Before we get into our episode topic, can you share a little bit about yourself with our listeners?
I'm an acute care nurse practitioner. I've been in the nursing game for, over 20 years, advanced practice for a little bit over a decade. I've always been in critical care. I love the thrill, chills, and the dynamic nature of critical care. I don't think that I will ever do anything else. But my daytime gig, I am the Assistant Dean for Strategic Partnerships. I get the opportunity to be of service in connecting the School of Nursing with a lot of different organizations to help advance our mission. It was really fun because I get the opportunity to meet so many different organizations, connect with some really interesting people, and have really great, productive conversations to get some good work done. So it's really exciting. And I like long walks on the beach and bathing under the moon, under a full moonlight.
We've hosted 2 episodes so far discussing the topic of racism, implicit bias, and DEI. In season 1, episode 5, Doctors Lisa Wolf and Anna Valdez discussed structural and implicit bias. Dr. Valdez rejoined us again in season 3, episode 13, to discuss DEI in nursing practice. Other episodes mentioned strategies to advance diversity, such as through academic practice partnerships in season 3, episodes 8 and 9. And so to continue the discussion today, we're going to focus in on leveraging professional organizations to advance diversity in nursing practice. You're the founder, CEO, and president of an organization called DNPs of Color. Can you talk about why the organization was founded and how it came to fruition?
Absolutely. DNPs of Color, affectionately known as DOCS, was basically a result of my experience of being the only Black woman in my DNP program at a predominantly white institution, and also having that desire to have a connection with folks that had shared lived experiences, and that also understood what it meant to be first generation in pursuing doctoral studies. Because my institution, I felt supported, but because I was the only one and I came with a different lived experience, I felt isolated sometimes. I felt that I wasn't given maybe the same resources as my fellow cohort mates. And so I was like, I need support. I ended up trying to find current nursing organizations that focused on nurses of color pursuing their DNP. I was very specific because I was like, my experience is unique and I want something that can support me through this. And couldn't find anything. I even pitched it to a couple of nursing organizations to which they weren't really open to. So I said, you know what? Let me just get a Facebook group popping because I wonder if there's some others out there. And sure enough, within the first couple of months, we had about 200 people find us organically and join the Facebook group. And the energy was so palpable in that group because people connected on that experience of, I'm the only one, like, how are y'all feeling? Like checking in. And then it also became a huge source for organic mentorship, and then also a place where people could share the game secrets. Because as we know in nursing, there's a lot of gatekeeping, there's a lot of favoritism and othering. And sometimes communities of color don't necessarily have the access to different networks for that aligns you with different opportunities to meet different people, access to different resources. So we started sharing, did you hear about this scholarship? What about this fellowship? Like, I'm the manager of this department. I can get you a clinical rotation here. Just email me. That organic energy exchange and then the networking. And then also just a group to encourage people, because sometimes it's hard being the only one in certain spaces because you have to code switch and you have to try to shape yourself into different ways of being to be accepted or to not be looked at by the way you appear. Fast forward to today, we've grown exponentially internationally, and it's such a joy to see people come to DNPs of color when they find us, that sense of relief and that sense of, I've found my community that sees me for me and values all that I have to contribute.
How many members do you have right now, and who can join docs?
We're in this transition phase right now. For the past couple of years, we've been this organic grassroots social media community. And we grew that community over the past couple of years to over 2,000 individuals. But what I was finding as I was going to the different tables, people could not wrap their heads around the value of grassroots organic organizations within the nursing structure. So we made the decision to transition to a membership association. So we're in that transition of the 2,000 grassroots members to dues paying association members. And we are at about 400 dues paying membership association members, which is really exciting because we just launched back in October at our annual conference. And
October of 2023.
yeah.
Okay.
And so we have a big audacious goal of getting 1,000 members converted from the organic group to the membership group by Juneteenth.
Excellent. And for the benefit of our listeners, we're actually recording this episode several months before it will air. We're talking right now in April. So you've got about 2 more months to get a little bit more than 2 months to get in and reach your goal of that 50% conversion rate. How is Docs similar or different from other nursing organizations, such as the National Black Nurses Association?
So I get asked this question a lot. This is one question, and the second question is, can all people join? Which I'll get to. But in terms of the National Black Nurses Association and us, it's just our mission focus. So we are super niche in that our focus is on nurses of color that either have their DNP degree or in pursuit of their DNP. What I found was there's no frontward facing organization that's specific to nurses that have their DNP. And when you look at the statistics, the DNP degree has exponentially grown over the past decade to where I always quote this statistic that Campaign for Action puts out that there's over 50,000 DNP prepared nurses in practice to 7,000 PhD nurses. And with the DNP degree, it's not well branded. So people don't know what we do. They don't know the value we contribute. And so it was very important for me to focus in on DNP prepared nurses. With the National Black Nurses Association, very large historical organization that focuses on all spectrums of education. And so they represent specifically nurses that identify as being Black or African American, whereas DNPs of color, essentially those that identify as being melanated is what I usually say, or those that have an interest in supporting our mission to diversifying doctoral nursing practice, that all are welcome. And that is our focus.
To be clear from what I'm hearing from you, I'm a white male, but I could potentially join DNPs of color, one, because I have a DNP, and two, because I support or would support and advance the mission and vision of your organization.
Absolutely. There's so much work out here for everyone, and everyone has value to contribute to the mission and our goals. So we will be remiss to exclude all that have a genuine interest in supporting the mission and the vision and goals. I will say, and I always say to folks that don't identify as being melanated, that the mission will always be centered on the voices that have been historically racialized and marginalized. And our programming, our events, our initiatives will be centered on that. And we won't be moved by anything that's outside of that particular mission.
And at the same point in time, while you're focusing on DMPs, a PhD prepared nurse that identified as being of color, what role would they potentially play, or what value could they get by joining your organization? Or is there a place for them?
Tremendous value, because that's another thing. There's no PhD of color organization. So we actually have a lot of PhDs infiltrating our space, one being Dr. Anna Valdez. She so graciously accepted our invitation to co-chair our research committee. And so we are leveraging her research expertise to help us build our research agenda and help us collaborate on various particular research topics and initiatives so that we can contribute to the evidence. So there's tons of room. Like I said, there's tons of room for everybody at our table, and there's tons of work that needs to get done. So all are welcome.
Can you talk a little bit more about the mission specifically, your vision, and the goals that you're trying to outline, more from the short term and then also in the long term of where the organization you hope to take it?
Our mission is ultimately to diversify doctoral nursing practice. And our mission pillars are networking, mentorship, and advocacy. I chose those because networking is directly related to your net worth. Your ability to engage in different circles allows you access to different opportunities to connect for anything. The second mission pillar is mentorship, because mentorship is literally the answer to the $1 million question, how to be successful in any endeavor. And then the last part is advocacy. We would be remiss to not have a focus on amplifying and elevating this group of professionals. One, because we're exponentially growing, and two, because we've been so historically disenfranchised and marginalized that we have to have that advocacy component to ensure that spaces are being created, ways are being made for us to be able to effectively contribute to the advancement of nursing. Some of the initiatives that we're starting off short term is just continuing to build our membership capacity in the association umbrella, and then just continuing to amplify the excellence, like literally start branding what a DNP prepared nurse looks like and making it abundantly clear what the contributions to nursing practice, nursing leadership, the whole spectrum of our nursing profession, what it means to be DNP prepared. There's an opportunity to basically create that narrative, because I don't feel like nursing has done that effectively, because a lot of folks don't. I've been a part of a lot of conversations about the return on investment and the value proposition from us having these degrees and inhabiting different spaces, with from leadership to academia and to clinical practice. Really getting that narrative together and branding the DNP and the excellence that it contributes. And then also, because we have a unique opportunity to contribute to the body of evidence in the literature, really strengthening the skills and knowledge for those that want to do research. We have a growing interest within DNPs of color, folks that want to generate new knowledge, want to be part of the contributions to nursing science. But the narrative has been so exclusionary of us that no, you guys are just the EBP, translational sciences. The PhDs are the holder of all nursing science. And in my mind, when I think about that, I'm like, okay, it is no secret that it takes about 7 to 17 years for that nursing science that PhD prepared nurse has created to get into practice. And then I'm thinking, wow, 7 to 17 years. You know how much social, political, technology changes happen between when the knowledge was generated to when it actually gets into practice? People are now getting kidney transplants because we took the racial component out of the GFR ratio calculations. For me, I'm like, because there's so many DNP prepared nurses, this is an opportunity to leverage that group to upskill them or reinforce skills to generate new knowledge and contribute to the science to close some of that gap in evidence generation to practice. And then other pieces that we're working on is really bolstering up our mentorship capacity for training mentors. We're finding that people are desiring more skills to be effective mentors. And when you're at this level of education, there's a different skill set and there's also a different needs that need to be met because a lot of us are later on in our careers when we go back to get their DNP. And so we've been there, we've done that. So there's different ways that we need to be shaped and molded to get to the next level.
If I'm a nurse executive right now in an organization or a director, and I'm thinking, what value is there for me to encourage, or what are some strategies that I can use to encourage minoritized populations that I'm working with? Should I steer them to docs? If I don't have a lot of doctorally prepared nurses in my organization because I'm in a rural organization or an organization that is not tied to or close to an academic medical center, what value would docs be for me and what would that look like?
So the value in sharing about our organization allows folks to have a community, especially those that if that your institution does not have a widely diverse representation of individuals. It's critically important to help your employees find that space because I think people really discount the amount of pressure and stress it is to be essentially the only one in some of these spaces. And so connecting them with organizations that one have that professional development, education and opportunities for them to grow and develop as a professional. And then two, having that community of belonging is critically important because it allows them that opportunity to connect with others, to share their experiences, to network, as I mentioned, to find mentorships that might be able to speak to their understanding and their lived experiences to help give them strategies to be more influential and effective in their particular leadership role.
And I wanted to hit on a topic that you mentioned earlier, and this may not be specific to DMPs of color or minoritized population, but one of the things that Docs is doing is really promoting the value and the understanding of the role of the DMP degree, which is primarily has set more being established by AACN and the colleges of nursing. So I'm hearing you taking it almost out of academia and into other types of environments to advance to the degree. What are your thoughts? Are there any other organizations that are doing that type of work, or is this a nice niche for you to, one, both promote the degree while also working on work for minoritized populations?
We're the only one in this space specific to DNP prepared nurses. We do have another organization that's led by Dr. David Campbell Odell, and that's Doctors of Nursing Practice, Inc. He's in the process of creating, well, he does primarily annual conferences for DNP prepared nurses, and he's also strategizing to create an academy of doctorally prepared nurses. So that's all encompassing of nurses that have their doctorate, not specific to the DNP.
And how would that be different than the fellow for the American Academy of Nursing? Because I know that a doctorate degree is not necessarily required for that, but the vast majority, if not nearly all, do have doctorate degrees. So, what would the differentiation be there between that academy and the existing fan designation?
I think that the focus, because it's just focused on nurses with doctorate degrees. So again, creating that distinction, whereas FAN is encompassing of all the degrees. But that's his particular vision. I just recently learned about the Academy of Doctorally Prepared Nurses, which is intriguing to me because I really think that because of the exponential growth of DNP prepared nurses, we're going to need more organizations specific to DNP prepared nursing practice and leadership because we're going to need those networks to be able to continue to develop. And then, like I said, literally brand what DNP prepared looks like.
What's the best way for a nurse leader to refer another nurse, whether it be a colleague or a subordinate, to docs?
We are on every major social media
You're
platform.
all over the place.
We are everywhere. I always say DNPs of color are everywhere. Google, we can go to our website, dnpsofcolor.org. Follow us on Instagram. I guess it's X. I just feel so weird calling it X. Twitter at DNPs of color is our handle. We also are looking for people to join us, simply joining us through our website to get connected to the internal network, which we're cultivating, continuously finding opportunities to add more value to be part of that membership experience.
Any closing thoughts as we wrap up this episode?
Yes, I always like to close with an empowering message because sometimes life circumstances gets very difficult, and especially when you are at the helm of change and being innovative and creative, which I like to think that we as nurses, that's our charge to our profession. So I always like to impart with folks to never let them be defined by their circumstances, and always be confident in your skills and your particular area of expertise, and then utilize those tools of being a nurse as your superpower to pursue your passion, which will lead you to your mission, which will lead you to being able to live the legacy that you want to leave. I always just want to encourage people to take hold of this space, take hold of their superpower as nurses, and really follow their passions to build their legacy and make that impact.
I wish every listener can hear the smile that I've seen on Danielle's face for the entirety of this episode. You definitely have a lot of passion in this space, as well as positive leadership, which is an important attribute. Leveraging professional organizations to advance diversity in nursing practice has been our episode topic. Dr. Danielle McCamey, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the BRG Nurse Executive Podcast, which focuses on improving patient care by advancing nursing leadership. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the host and podcast guest and do not necessarily reflect the opinions, position, or policy of the guest employer, Berkeley Research Group, or their other respective employees and affiliates.